I have the privilege in inviting on stage our distinguished session chair, Mr. Anil Tandon, Director General BIF. Once again, a warm welcome to you, sir. I invite our keynote speaker, Dr. Sarat Kumar, CTO, Atria Convergence Technologies Limited. A very warm welcome to you, sir. We invite Dr. Puneet Rathore, Technical Standards Lead, Qualcomm. A warm welcome to you, sir. We invite Dr. C.S. Rao, Co-founder, Head of India Operations, Quadcash, and Shri Jayant Mandal, Group Leader, New Technology, C. And may I hand over to our session chair, Mr. Anil Tandon, Director General BIF, to kindly carry forward the proceedings of the session. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. A difficult task after a sumptuous lunch for me and my fellow panelists to be able to keep you all awake. We try our best to do that. So we have the second panel discussion. As you're aware, we had planned 3 panel discussions. The first one was before lunch. This is the panel discussion where we are looking at 5G and Wi-Fi convergence for seamless connectivity. I think this subject, for those of you who were there at the inaugural session, was pretty well covered by most of the speakers, including Professor Karandikar and Dr. Robert Ravi. So basically, we are in the era of the data explosion. I think earlier speakers said how much it has grown. The per capita consumption is really spiraling upwards. In TRS data itself, it says that in a short period of 8 years, it has shot up by about 80 times. We talked of 19.5 GB for a mobile seller. TV Ramachandran talked about 600 on a fixed line in the US. So even in India, BSNL's own data indicates that as much as about 289 GB per month is on the limited fixed broadband that they're provided, and that is even some of them being in the rural areas. So the demand is there. And it is growing every day with all the new technologies, with all the new bandwidth-hungry applications that are coming in. Not only, the new data users coming in, new use cases coming in, and all this will lead to a lot of data guzzling, and one has to get ready for that. Of course, India is basically a mobile network where majority of the consumption, 90%, is on the mobile network. But once you come to the indoor part of it, whether it is the offices or whether it is the homes, everybody is looking at a Wi-Fi connection, because all said and done, the penetration of the signal inside the house is rather limited. With 5G getting into more and more higher bands, the penetration into the in-buildings is becoming lesser as we go along. So therefore, for being able to use so it has to be based on a Wi-Fi. Other thing is, about 80% of the data that is used indoors. While one may say that mobile is the main data consumer, but the indoor usage is still 80% of that. And out of that 80%, roughly around 80 to 90% is on Wi-Fi itself and not on the mobile data that is used. So with the higher frequency bands of 5G not being able to penetrate, that becomes an issue. What we therefore need is the advanced Wi-Fi. What we need is the convergence between 5G and the Wi-Fi. So this session will look into what are the synergies and how we can combine the 5G and going forward the 6G along with the Wi-Fi. Just to talk of what we would, even Professor Karandikar, Dr. Ravi brought out that basically Wi-Fi complements 5G even today. So it should not be seen as competing technologies. And with Wi-Fi 8 synchronized, or may not be synchronized, but likely to come in around the 2029 time frame, and the 6G likely to come in and in the 2030 time frame, the two new technologies will come. So we'll have to. So while there's on the cellular side, you're going from 5G to the 6G. On the Wi-Fi side, we're going 6E, 7 is available today. 8 would be available in 2019, in time with all the features that would be required for it to move to be with the 6G that will be released at that time. Now, Wi-Fi offload to a cellular, and that I'm saying, having been the CTO of a Idea Cellular for many, many years, 17 years, 18 years, has been a topic talked of right from the time 3G was introduced or planned to be introduced in 2010 era or 2000, that time frame. But because the spectrum is limited, the users are very many, you want to offload part of your data onto the Wi-Fi. But it has not taken off primarily because there aren't enough public Wi-Fi hotspots, or there aren't enough hotspots inside the house. In any case, 3G was, while touted as a little bit of data, this thing was more still voice-centric. Now the voice part of it also, if you see in the 4G, there is, in addition to the VoLTE, there is voice over Wi-Fi that has come in. So most people today with an advanced smartphone, even inside the home, tend to switch on or have their voice over Wi-Fi switched on so that they don't miss out on calls and are able to make calls. Otherwise, in some corner of the house, the coverage will not be there, while most houses have their own Wi-Fi routers, which covers nearly the whole house. So voice is also now, in the 4G era, has become voice over Wi-Fi. But unless there are more public Wi-Fi hotspots that come in, the offload will not be possible. And one of those things could be that maybe the operators want their own hotspots so that they don't have to shell out any revenue to the others. Otherwise, if there are neutral party, third party where they can tie up, then maybe there'd be a cost to it. But the experience of the people inside the buildings, especially in the places like hospitals, airports, etc., would improve considerably. Then on the 5G, there really hasn't been a killer application that will really drive the growth. While 5G has been, India has had the fastest rollout of the 5G in the world. But if you see now, there's a little pause because the uptake is not very high. And all the operators are looking at how to monetize the 5G. And one of the solutions being thought through is the fixed wireless access, which eventually, if you see, what is a fixed wireless access? Fixed wireless access is a backhaul on the 5G, while the consumption on the front end by the consumer is done on the Wi-Fi. So it's a typical example of how there is the convergence of the 5G and the Wi-Fi. As we go further, and as the speakers in the inaugural session said, there would be need for a convergence of the core also. Right now, the two are independent cores. Wi-Fi goes on a separate core, and the cellular has its own core. Yes, as we go forward, hopefully by the time the Wi-Fi 8 comes in or something, there would be technologies which would have that the core also becomes a single core for both of these. So with this introduction on the convergence between the 5G and Wi-Fi, I think hand over to Sapna to invite the next person. Sapna, you want to handle this? Or you have to introduce the thing?
And now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the privilege in inviting eminent keynote speaker, Dr. Sarat Kumar, CTO, Atria Convergence Technologies Limited, for the keynote address. So let's once again put our hands together to welcome sir.
Hi, good afternoon. I think it's a post-lunch session, you can clearly see. Okay, so let me give you a brief perspective. Okay, I'll just give a brief perspective from the industry point of view. Because I work for ACT FiberNet, CTO of ACT FiberNet. For those of you who don't know, we are the largest pure play broadband provider in India. Pretty strong presence in the southern states. We are present in 25 cities or towns across the country, about 2.2 million subscribers. In the next few slides, what I will walk you through is from the industry perspective, because you heard quite a lot of very eminent speakers since morning on the need for this 5G and Wi-Fi convergence, what are the challenges and so on, right? So I just want to add a few thoughts on that. So we had released a state of the internet report in February 24. This is based on the subscribers that we have, as I said, the 2.2 million of them. What we have seen is that last 2 years, the data rate that the customers are consuming has increased by about 25%, right? So this is highest in the IT cities, right? Hyderabad, Bangalore, that they are the ones which are leading this momentum, okay? And as we all know, COVID has actually caused a major digital revolution in the country in terms of the way that people connect, work from home, right? But what is really impressive to see is that growth has continued even post COVID. After we thought that once people start, going to the office and a lot of that, the traffic growth will actually come down. But that actually is not the case. In fact, it's become a baseline. All the experiences that people have, with the bandwidth services and connectivity services and entertainment and so on. So that has become a baseline. After that also we see fairly significant growth. And of course we have seen that, as people started going to offices gradually, right, the data consumption has shifted more towards the entertainment, right, which is in the, during the peak hours. So basically the peak hours for data consumption has actually shifted from 8 p.m. to 12 p.m., 8 p.m. to 11 p.m., okay? And another interesting data point here is 86% of the internet users in India, right? What do they use it for? They use it for the OTT audio and video services. Okay, so these are the new age services which are actually driving this. I know that we have the AR, VR, XR, all those in the horizon, in the pipeline, right? But when you look at the reality on the ground, it is actually these OTT and video and audio which is actually driving a lot of the consumption. And another really relevant and interesting data point is the kind of devices that people are using to access this, right? So that is where we see a growth in the smart TV, right? So this is one thing that is a major transformation that's happening in India, right? A lot of the cable TV subscribers, right, and DTH subscribers are actually migrating to using the internet to provide download these services, okay? So primarily driven by the smart TV, smart speakers and Fire Sticks and so on. This was one of the biggest challenges earlier on, right? So what is it that is coming in the way of users adopting or paying a lot for it, especially in the rural areas, right? One, of course, is the affordability, but another important thing is the kind of devices that people are using. Do they actually need that kind of high-speed connectivity? Now, this is something that we see a big transformation with, especially smart TV, and a lot of the smart devices, Fire Stick and so on, coming into the picture, right? So you can see they're at a growth of CAGR of 58% between 2021 and 23, okay? And now if you look at the Wi-Fi hotspots, right? By the way, being an internet service provider, so one of the things that is a baseline in India is that when you give a broadband internet service to the end customer, Wi-Fi router is assumed to be given for free, right? So it is of course, that also has an indirect role to play in how people access, right? I mean, pretty much almost 100% of our subscribers, they have a Wi-Fi router at home, right? So it is of particular interest to us on what we can do and what kind of Wi-Fi technologies can come in to enhance that experience, right? And so there are public Wi-Fi hotspots, 550 million as per the, some of the research done. And government of India, we heard this before, they have a mammoth goal of reaching to 50 million hotspots, right? And 2 million subscribers in India using Wi-Fi hotspots, right? And the last one is just to repeat that 1 in 5 Indian stream video content is done over the internet. This is basically as opposed to cable and DTH, okay? So basically this is actually showing that, Wi-Fi is a key to seamless experience, but pretty much all our broadband subscribers, that is the access point, okay? Now, if I just look at where is 5G? Let's take a quick look at this, right? In 2018, the average speeds of the subscriber 15 Mbps. That has grown to 40 Mbps. This is the average download speeds that was seen in 2023. But if you look at down, right, the applications that are coming in, especially, smart TV, now you're talking about 4K and then you're talking about 8K. You are actually looking at the speeds. What you see in the color here are the speeds, right? 16 Mbps for UHD cameras. And if you look at 8K TV, which is 100 Mbps, right? So the rate of growth of these requirements, application requirements, are going at a very, very fast pace. And if you look at the growth of the bandwidth that is available through the wireless technologies, right? We started at now with 5G, you're still talking about 1 Gbps. Okay, now 1 Gbps, important thing is to know that this is shared bandwidth, right? So basically, what is the point of this data? One is that application bandwidth demand is growing at a much faster pace than what the wireless technologies can actually deliver, right? So now what is the alternative to this? Alternative is to provide very high capacity fiber broadband as close to the customer as possible, okay? Now, of course, in the in homes, right, which are having this broadband today, right, you take the fiber all the way to the home, okay? Now, and then, of course, then you provide the last mile connectivity on Wi-Fi, right? Now, then the question is that, and this is the alternative to providing the 5G. Right? Now, 5G, we know, has challenges. One is, of course, the capacity of 5G is limited based on the spectrum. And as you keep increasing the spectrum, it's available only in the higher bands, which have an impact on the penetration into the homes. Right? So, number one, there is a clear hotspots. Right? There's a clear requirement that, you cannot penetrate into the homes with very high speeds over the wireless. Right? So, that basically means that Wi-Fi is here to stay, and that has to, start catering to higher and higher speeds, number one. Number two, within the cities, we heard in the morning, within the cities also there are many, many hotspots, right? A few of the speakers eloquently mentioned about how many, even in Delhi, a few hundred hotspots are there where there's no connectivity. So there is a clear requirement. And third thing is, even in the rural areas, there is a clear-cut gap there, right? Now, there are some fantastic models that can evolve over this, right? When you combine, 5G with Wi-Fi, what is common between them is the fact that they are both connected on fiber, right? And the backhaul access is always on fiber. Now, how far fiber you take it is what the difference is. And of course, the cost of licensing, spectrum, all that, right? And most important thing, especially with respect to Wi-Fi, why it has a lot more potential future is the fact that there are, few billions of devices that are there and the ecosystem, and we see that in the price points that we see, right? So how are we able to give these Wi-Fi routers for free today, bundle with the broadband, simply because, they have come down to those cost points. I think same kind of insights into the costing can actually extend to providing, number one, plugging the hotspots in the urban areas, as well as providing better coverage in the rural, for the rural community. Okay, so with that, I would like to go on to the next part of the session. Thank you.
Gentlemen, may I hand over to our session chair, Mr. Anil Tandon, to kindly carry forward the proceedings of the panel discussion session. Over to you, sir. And you have about 40 to 45 minutes.
Okay, we just
You heard the address by Sarat Kumar, very interesting. I would now take on a few questions. So one of the key drivers of broadband in the rural areas is BharatNet. How do you think the combination of FTTX and Wi-Fi can help in the proliferation of broadband in rural areas?
Okay. Yeah, that's a very good question. So let me just give a little bit of the perspective on how the the user is connected in the for broadband, providing broadband connectivity in the homes today, right? So we have broadband, fiber going all the way to the home. Okay, and what is the last mile technology that we use today? Is GPON, and why? Because GPON actually is the most cost-effective fiber technology in the access that is available today, right? And it's not just technology; it is also this has become a de facto standard worldwide, and that actually brings in huge volumes into the game, and that has a big role to play in the cost of the fiber termination devices that you see, which is a GPON ONT, right? Now ONT, as I said, right, ONT probably it delivers some up to 2.5 Gbps of downlink throughput. If you just look at just the fiber termination, it costs about 1,000 rupees, right? And now the way that we provide broadband is we take the fiber all the way to the home, put an ONT there, which is a very cheap termination device, and then we distribute that signal within the home using a Wi-Fi, right? Now imagine, suppose you have to actually make it a lot more cost effective. What is the most natural thing that you do? Is that, I would actually allow this signal, which is, as I said, it can provide up to 2.5 Gbps. I would allow this signal to be shared among a large pool of subscribers, right? 2.5 Gbps, it's very easy to think of, 50, 100 subscribers being able to share that bandwidth, right? Then the question is, what is the easiest technology that I can, or the simplest technology that I can use to distribute that? Then naturally Wi-Fi, again, as a very similar, it's a proven technology, it's very cost effective. And so I think, the combination of using this, fiber to the home technology to go to some location, from there using these Wi-Fi hotspots to distribute that, right? I think that becomes fairly effective. Of course, it brings in its own challenges, right? Especially with respect to even Wi-Fi, it doesn't penetrate concrete, right? So there are some more challenges there. But I think, given the fact that it can be far more cost efficient, we can think of alternate models. Rather than getting this coverage in every corner of the house, the problem could be slightly different. Can we provide coverage to the communities, the health centers, right? The education institutions, right? To basically e-health, e-education, all those, right? I think that is where I think there is from economic perspective also, it actually has a very, very strong promise.
Thank you, Sarat. I had a question now to Dr. Rao. While he's talked more on the, the combination of the FTTX with Wi-Fi from a more urban this thing. Do you have an experience, as I understand, you have an experience of having run it in a rural this thing. So would you like to share your experience of how it has been in the rural of a combination of the fiber and the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, thank you. Am I audible? Yeah. Yeah. Basically, as a part of the BharatNet, we have covered nearly 14,000 villages. On the extension of the fiber to all these villages, and we have also done quite a few number of villages, maybe around 3,000 plus villages on last mile from that fiber to cover the villages. My partner in the crime is sitting in the back. I think he was there earlier, speaker also. Both of us have got a lot of experience in this, Kalyan. As we see, any village, as we have done the modeling, a large village will have 1 by 2 square kilometers. A small village will have 800 by 1 kilometer, or much smaller ones are 800 by half a kilometer, 800 meters by 500 meters. I think to do that Wi-Fi coverage and to exploit the Wi-Fi as a technology to extend the fiber that is going from BharatNet as a 1G pipe or a 10G pipe and extend it to the rural community is the need is for outdoor access points which are IP67 compatible, which can withstand the vagaries of the weather and capable of providing uninterrupted service like a cellular service we should be able to provide. If a cellular service is there on a tower, come what may, the rain or heat in the summer, they provide service. Same is the case that Wi-Fi access points. And we have done that with now ComScope and earlier with Raku's access points, which are IP67. And I can say proudly and confidently that the failure rate was less than 2% after 4 years of withstanding all types of weathers that we have seen. And what is required is fundamentally all those 5 or 6, maximum number is 5 access points, outdoor access points to be put on the electric poles or on the rooftops of some of the big buildings within the village, so as to do a ubiquitous coverage of that village. And that's what we have done. And that has been a good experience. The only problem is that of fiber maintenance, the availability of that fiber backhaul and the MTTR for that was a problem. People used to say, "Saab, jab kaam karta hai, bahut badhiya karta hai," but when it goes down for days together. So that has been the basic problem. I think we have the products, we have the technology. It has to be outdoor Wi-Fi based is what I am trying to say for covering the rural experience, and that's what I wanted to share. Sorry if I've given a long answer.
I can ask you one more question. How much range do you get from an outdoor Wi-Fi? So
Yeah.
you said a village with about 1 square kilometer.
1 by 1 square kilometer, if you say. Yeah, I think the range that we have been able to get around each of these access points is not more than 300 meters, you can say. At times we have gone up to 350 meters, and the meshing was also working well, and the speeds were all right. And it is not, because you do the meshing between the access points, to some extent the speeds will come down. But what we have used is a Wi-Fi 5 generation 11.8 or to 11.AC, and it was all right. I think we did not face the problem. The handover between one Wi-Fi hotspot to another Wi-Fi hotspot was also successfully shown. It was not, the session is not dropping as you move from one access point to another access point, which is within the distance of that 1 by 1 square kilometer. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me move from the FTTX to this thing to a bit of a standards. So Puneet, you've been involved in the development of the standards and the spectrum requirements. So how do you foresee the coexistence and convergence of Wi-Fi and 5G in the future? What do you think would be the enablers, and what do you think are the challenges in meeting that?
Thank you. Yes, so coming to, so I'll try to start from the use case perspective and then come to the spectrum and standards.
Do you have a presentation you want to make?
I did have, maybe.
You want to use it now, or?
Maybe I can use it. It will digress a little bit from the question, but then I'll come to the question by the end of the presentation. Can I do that? Is that okay?
Yeah, you can answer the question and then maybe, or whichever way you want.
No, I'll start with the presentation and then come to the question by the end.
Go ahead.
Let me jump straight away into the overall theme of how I was planning to talk about it. So yes, so I was thinking of talking about how we have reached in terms of using Wi-Fi, and then the new use cases, and then the convergence from a technology and standards point of view. Wi-Fi from 20 years ago, it was one Wi-Fi access point in the house or in the room. In the enterprise setting, it was more about a large venue trying to connect a few devices. And as the complexity of the use cases increased, the technology increased, we started connecting more and more denser networks. And then to today, we have a large venue like this hotel in this conference room, and including the WRC that a lot of people were talking about, thousands of people on a single network ID roaming across one access point to the other as they walk across the room from one meeting to room to the other. They don't have to put the password again. So the technology has moved and made a lot of new usages possible. Even in the house, our typical usages have increased from normal, simple HTML page browsing to more interactive content, more real-time content, audio, video, OTT usages, and more cloud-based services. And truly, this is something which I have a personal anecdote. This is like from the time when I was doing my PhD with Professor Abhay, and I was the lab administrator. So I was the one who was involved in really crimping those RJ45 cables and setting up those wired Ethernet connection to every work cubicle, and then saw the transition where we have now. We even in corporate offices, institutes, we have moved away from that experience. We come with a laptop, we connect to the Wi-Fi, and we are online. We very rarely try to look for that Ethernet cable to plug into a laptop to get connected. And that's the experience which has transformed in terms of the use cases. And that's where the convergence truly will shine, where there are fiber to the home, copper to the home, and then there is also this new emerging use case from 5G, which is the fixed wireless access, where in cases where there are challenges in right of way, if a fiber cannot cross over a road and reach a particular dwelling, and then there are, in those few challenging use cases where the fixed wireless access becomes a use case to provide good high quality internet up to the home, but then inside the home, the Wi-Fi will truly complement that 5G connection in enabling all of these newer use cases requiring very high data rate, very low latency, truly interactive nature of usages, and all the use cases we saw through the entire morning, which are very highly demanding. And then this is just the starting point. A lot of these use cases are very real now, and then the use cases may just become more and more demanding, more and more involved, and a lot of these interactive use cases may be in a confined space where we may need to be untethered, but still need these high capacity networks. And one real implementation example is this Seoul subway, where 26 gigahertz millimeter wave 5G connection was utilized to provide the 5G connectivity to the actual subway train, and then inside the subway train it was Wi-Fi, which was providing very high capacity, a good internet experience to the subway travelers. So this is an actual real implementation. And coming to how is all of this happening from a Wi-Fi technology evolution point of view, because 5G, there are these 3GPP releases from 4G to 5G, release 14, 15 and beyond. But even within Wi-Fi, from the traditional way of carrier sense multiple access, where the devices were to sense if the channel is free and then transmit, Wi-Fi itself has enhanced and is able to utilize a scheduled way of transmitting packets, so that the efficiency of usage of the limited Wi-Fi spectrum is improving. So there is OFDMA, which is part of the Wi-Fi since Wi-Fi 6. It is able to utilize higher order modulation, more MIMO, and as we move into Wi-Fi 6E, which is able to utilize new spectrum, wider channel bandwidths, able to utilize multi-user capabilities, and then Wi-Fi 7 adds another layer of utilizing further wider channel bandwidths of 320 megahertz, which is where the new spectrum would be very useful. But in addition to that, the availability of specific smaller channels, which is what was the challenge, that unavailability of 40 or 80 megahertz wide channels makes it difficult to roll out the Wi-Fi networks in larger venues. Wi-Fi 7 adds even more features to make these networks more easier to implement. And so maybe this is where I can stop and then say that from sharing the same from sharing point of view, one is there is limited spectrum. Even the cellular networks, the new technologies are able to utilize the new spectrum only by sharing with the incumbent services, which are satellite in some cases. There are challenging spectrum in some cases, for example, the 6 gigahertz or the 5 gigahertz, where the incumbents are even harder. There are fixed links or microwave backhaul links which are existing. And those links will make high power macro base stations much more difficult. And in those cases, these Wi-Fi networks are much easier to share with those incumbents. And then when that happens, there are the 5G networks having access to certain frequency ranges, which can then be very easily complemented in a very natural way by this Wi-Fi in the indoor and outdoor hotspot scenarios. So, thank you.
Thank you, Puneet. That has grown and is developing with new technologies. Jayant, I guess you also have a presentation, so we could start with your presentation.
Going to just cover a very small presentation that is purely for the 5G and Wi-Fi convergence for the seamless connectivity. So as we know that 5G and Wi-Fi, in fact Wi-Fi means Wi-Fi 6 and above, this technology meant to deliver the very high multi-Gbps peak data rate. That is the primary requirement of the generation, is that we need the speed. So this 5G and Wi-Fi technology will deliver the multi-Gbps data rate. It will give the ultra low latency and the more reliable network is there. And the massive network capacity means nowadays, as the lot of IoT equipments and all are coming, to more number of network equipment, more number of network capacity and more number of user handling. These all will be going to fulfill using this 5G and the Wi-Fi technology. So both are actually complementing each other. But how it is going to convergence and why it is required to converge this Wi-Fi and 5G, because convergence will offer the improved visibility of the telecom operator, because right now 5G, 4G, these all are the telecom service providers domain. And Wi-Fi is generally given by the ISPs. Many telecom service providers have also started giving the Wi-Fi services. But generally they have the two parallel network. But of course, the many telecom operators have started using the Wi-Fi for the last mile coverage. Mainly for the indoor coverage, they are using this Wi-Fi, and the convergence will offer the better visibility of the telecom operator. Convergence will provide the greater flexibility and the interoperable 5G and Wi-Fi network. And convergence will give the better customer experience and better services with the superior indoor coverage through the Wi-Fi. So these are the three major reasons why we should converge. Currently, the Wi-Fi and cellular technology is coexisting. Both technology remain separate but coexist with the physical layer. It means the cellular operator is using the Wi-Fi technology for the offload purpose. Primarily, after the 3G only, they have started using this Wi-Fi for the offload purpose. Best connection coexistence. This is the device-specific feature where many devices evaluate whether the Wi-Fi is better or the cellular is better. Accordingly, it will latch into the network. And the last one is the cellular and Wi-Fi hotspot. As we know that the many cellular devices able to create the hotspot. So generally we connected with the 5G and able to create a small hotspot for using the mobile devices. So these are the few drivers of convergence. So market is zeroing for the four major driver of convergence. This is the enterprise and campus network requirement, where this convergence is very helpful because the cellular operators are using this Wi-Fi technology. And in the indoor area, they're using the offload. They will offload the traffic to the local indoor area. Similarly, in the industrial network also, this device based on the feature where the device evaluate whether the Wi-Fi or cellular, accordingly it will latch into the network. Public hotspot is anyway, it is the personal hotspot you can create using the mobile devices. And there is a home network where the SIM-based authentication, as Tandon sir was telling, that many operators have started giving the voice over Wi-Fi. So when you have authenticated using the SIM-based, then at the home you can use the Wi-Fi network for the voice services purpose. So these are the major driver of convergence. Main challenge in the convergence is that because both demand the maturity of the standard of convergence, some of the challenges are mainly the business values, because cellular operator has created their own network, Wi-Fi are evolved separately. So there is a need of architectural convergence, then only this convergence is possible. Again, in the 3GPP release 16, there is a standards are there, but it need to adopt the standards so that the convergence will be the reality. As the previous speaker was telling, that by 2028, this Wi-Fi 8 will be coming, and this 6G will be coming. Probably by that time, the adoption of the standards will happen, and both the Wi-Fi network and the 5G, 6G network will start converging and will giving the converged services. However, the best thing is that the challenge is that the technology is the one challenge, because both the technology things are evolved separately. So a lot of integration efforts are required, and a lot of effort is required for that. And there is a politics. Of course, the politics is that the mutual understanding between the cellular camp and the Wi-Fi camp need to work to resolve this problem. So once this problem, this challenges will be, we can able to overcome, definitely the convergence will happen. However, this is the one very good example I have put in the last year's presentation also, because already this convergence has started happening. If you see, many a time the Airtel has started giving the advertisement, it is showing that 5G is Wi-Fi-like speed now on the go. So this convergence is anyway, many telecom operators have started doing it, and I hope in future it will be the complete converge of Wi-Fi and the 5G or 6G will happen. Thank you.
Question came to me, Puneet. We're talking of the convergence of standards. With the standards for the 5G being developed by a separate organization, the standards for the Wi-Fi being developed by a separate organization, how do you think the convergence can happen, considering that you are in the field of standardization and work for this?
So, so within the standardization community, they consider this from the perspective of interworking or interoperability. This is the kind of terminology they try to look at it, because if we look at like the core convergence in the same spectrum at the same time, then it is anyways like we are talking of a very, very hard problem. Then it is like in that frequency, either one technology can operate or the other technology can operate. But then there have been several frameworks, like offload was one of them. Within 3GPP, over the last several releases, they have tried it in different ways. Offload was around since 3G time. Then they tried LTE Wi-Fi aggregation. Then they tried adding the 3GPP OFDM by calling it license aggregated access. So there have been different terminologies, but every time what eventually works is this interworking, which is that framework has never been disturbed, which is that there are these unlicensed frequency bands, and then there will be some interworking across these technologies, either from a backhaul access point of view or access aggregation point of view, in some or the other way. But the genesis will remain the same, that there are different technologies in these different frequency regimes.
Thank you. Actually, I want to firstly, just taking a break here, I want to apologize to the audience here that I think I failed in one aspect, and that is because I was not really planning for it, is the introduction of the panelists. I think I forgot. So the reason I was asking Puneet, if you can just I don't have his CV here, but you can just put it up. He is he's a technical standards lead from Qualcomm. So that is the reason that I was posing the questions more pertaining to the standards for him. Can you please have Puneet's so he has a lot of experience, 15 plus in R&D, and he's been, if you see, his focus has been on spectrum and standardization in the Qualcomm, with Qualcomm. He's a PhD from Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, and a well-respected person in the field of standards, because Qualcomm is one of the leading chipset manufacturers. It manufactures not only the chipsets for the Wi-Fi, but also for the cellular technology. Let me use this time to also introduce now Sarat Kumar. Another, I think most of them are. So can we have Sarat's? He's currently the CTO at ACT, and prior to this, he's been with Tejas for 22 years and Bell Labs. He's also a PhD from the University of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and he has over 15 patents and several papers in international journal to his credit. So that is Sarat. We can now move to Dr. C.S. Rao. So he is the co-founder of the India operations for Convergence. He is well known in the industry and has been in the industry for a very long time. And I think I've known him ever since I joined the private sector after leaving the army. He's also been the chairman and co-founder of Convergence Wireless Solutions. He was former president and CEO of Lucent India. He holds executive positions with BT India, Intel. He was also the chairman of WiMAX Forum. You know, there was a time when there was a tussle between whether WiMAX will succeed or 3G will succeed, and finally the 3G came on it. So maybe he betted on the wrong technology at that point of time. So next is Jayant Mandal. Jayant is from the group leader of new technologies in CDOT. He has experience in support of CDOT switching systems. He started this. He's also been involved in the Wi-Fi project, which is subsequently became the PM Vani, and currently is involved in the public Wi-Fi proliferation through PM Vani and facilitating PDUAs. So my apologies to the audience for not introducing the panelists. So now on coming to, if you don't mind, since I've introduced him and I see the last part of his profile says that he is from the PM Vani, something which is very dear to our heart at the BIF. You heard, those of you who were there in the morning session must have heard TV Ramachandran, that our passion for Wi-Fi at the BIF and our passion for the PM Vani. Jayant, you handle the central portal for the CDOT, handle the central portal, and also the central registry. You were instrumental in, really devising the architecture for it and getting. But somehow it has not taken off. I think it was brought out by many speakers in the morning if you were there. And that's my personal concern in BIF. And what is it that needs to be done? Or where do you think we are not able to do it? What is your recommendation and solutions to it?
Thank you, sir. I know this question is now because it's almost more than a 3 year. The PM Vani has been launched, but it has not taken up the way it should, because whatever the government idea, whatever this, because this is a TRICE project in 2017. When this public Wi-Fi things has been thought by the then TRI chairman, and there is a framework. This is the framework. Actually, this is the distributed architecture framework, where because before that there is a TSP or ISP who will giving the services complete end to end. He is owning it and he is delivering the services. However, in the PM money, the things has been distributed that there is a someone who will able to do, who can do the only the billing part. There is a someone who can do only the KYC part, and there is a someone who can able to who is able to do only the front end, that is the installation of access point and take the backhaul and deliver the services. So there is a participative network creation is there. And because these are the three entities who will going to deliver this PM public Wi-Fi services, and for that there is a registry has been made which CDOT has developed just to align all the three entity, all this distributed entity into the common framework. Now the problem is that this framework has been thought of for the major participation, for the broader participation of the smaller and the medium entrepreneur who come forward. It's not the business of only the big service providers. The small participants will come, they will install the network in a very localized area, they will deliver the services. However, the thing is that in the Wi-Fi, because the one very misnomer is there that Wi-Fi, always people think this should be the free Wi-Fi. People have always think that the Wi-Fi should be available free. And that is the reason people are very hesitant to buy the coupons and then access the network. And that is the reason there is a more than 200 or 250 PDOAs who came forward, who established the network, but they are not able to monetize the network. And due to the same, many people have gradually withdrawn from this PM Vani, and it has literally now, after 3 years, it is literally not taken off the way it should be. Barring the few incumbent TSPs or ISPs like the BSNL is there, like the Railtel is there, they have their own Wi-Fi network that they have shifted into the PM Vani framework. BSNL has shifted their whole Wi-Fi network into the PM Vani framework. But these new players, they have came into they thought of making the business, but they are not able to monetize that. And that is the reason it is very slow moving. However, I know that in the DOT, in the government, they are still thinking how to make it and what are the other steps need to be taken. One thing which is missing in this whole framework is the roaming, because these PDOAs are giving the very localized services. Now, if I buy a coupon from the one service provider and if I move to the some other, how to use that coupon, that will restrict my service area. So this roaming which was missing in the initial standard, now the DOT is thinking of the enabling of the roaming. That is the one part. Second thing is that whatever the government installation like the BharatNet, even the Gram Panchayat, whatever the installation of the Wi-Fi, that all also planning to bring into the PM Vani framework, so that there is a major area which will be covered under the PM Vani framework. That will definitely going to help in the proliferation of the PM Vani. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and I hope the steps that you have suggested, I think in the next session there'll be a little more discussion on this subject, and where there are some of the PDOAs and all present there, so maybe they will come up with the practical difficulties. But thank you. I think it's something that needs to be taken up so that its proliferation increases. So, Dr. Rao, if I can come to you, to ensure high quality and reliable wireless broadband service, what are the essential features that a service provider needs to ensure to provide a high degree of customer satisfaction? As far as the customer is concerned, he is technology agnostic. So whether it is a 5G or whether it is a Wi-Fi, and we are talking of the convergence of the two. So what do you think, what are the essential features that a service provider needs to ensure that the customer gets a good customer experience?
Yeah, I am one of the customers of the Atria, the ACT as a facility. I think they have come a long way in providing an extremely good customer service in terms of trouble ticket management, in terms of attending to the faults quite fast and solve it. But said that, going forward to answer your question of reliable and what are the service providers have to do, I think if this has to be adopted as a carrier grade Wi-Fi or a telco grade Wi-Fi service, I think the service providers have to recognize that fact that this is a carrier grade Wi-Fi, whether they provide it to the end consumer or they provide it to the enterprise services as a managed Wi-Fi services to the enterprise world. For doing the telco grade or a carrier grade Wi-Fi service, one has to, whatever devices that they supply, whatever network infrastructure that the service provider has, should conform to the industry standards. And there are so many Wi-Fi access point manufacturers who are there, but if you ask who are complying to the carrier grade Wi-Fi access point services, there are quite a few, much less in number. I think that is what has been my experience, that has been the experience of BSNL or Airtel when they were trying to do this. So first and foremost is the requirement of a carrier grade Wi-Fi access point, a carrier grade Wi-Fi access controller, and a carrier grade Wi-Fi access gateway. The three families of products should be carrier grade, industry standard, compliant to specifications, all industry standard, international global specifications of WBA, and they should conform to the certifications. And that's where that only gives the confidence to the end user, be it a consumer Wi-Fi or enterprise Wi-Fi, so that they get a confidence on using the Wi-Fi as a good service with QoS and SLA metrics that the consumers or enterprise users are expecting. That also demands that they have to use the chipsets which are coming from reputed manufacturers. Unfortunately, if you take many of the devices that are going there into the market, many handsets or even the laptops, the Wi-Fi that gets embedded into them, in some of them, are not a reliable thing. And I had personal experience when the Ministry of HRD has asked us to come out with a K-12 grade laptop less than 20,000 rupees to be evolved. That was the ask from the Ministry of HRD. When we went and started looking at how to come out with this, we came across, when we studied in the market, the Wi-Fi chips that were going into that are absolutely pathetic chipsets. So one has to conform to some good chipset standards, again conforming to IEEE standards, Wave 2 certification standards, etc. I think that is one of the fundamental things. The next, of course, in the morning, the Department of Science and Technology Secretary also mentioned, for a good quality bandwidth, whether whoever is providing, from the service provider point of view, they have to ensure adequate bandwidth on the fiber, which can be shared by X number of homes, X number of Wi-Fi users when they give it to the enterprise Wi-Fi. And that bandwidth has to be adequate enough. It is not, when we were providing the service in association with BSNL, we told BSNL if they want us to provide a 10 Mbps based hotspots, we will not do. We fought and we said that we will not do 10 Mbps as a bandwidth from BSNL and go and do the Wi-Fi either in rural India or in urban India, wherever it is. Because that doesn't make sense. Because the people expect Wi-Fi means it's 3x the speed of the normal macro cellular, and it is 1/3 the cost. So that is the expectation. If that has to be met, the bandwidth has to be affordable, bandwidth has to be quality bandwidth. There is another point that is very important. And that bandwidth has to be maximum available with the least mean time to repair, which is what I mentioned earlier also. When once the bandwidth goes, the available restoration of that bandwidth has to be fast enough. I think these are the fundamental things. The last point that I can say is the end-to-end manageability of the network. I think if a good service provider has to do, they should have management systems where they are able to have the facilities of observability, monitorability, and manageability. These three are a must. And that's what I have seen in ACT and other people. They have really come up in a big way. I think they are the reasons, if I may say, and I'll stop here, I think. with that
Thank
answer,
you.
I hope.
I
It's
think
long.
Sharath is itching from an operator point of view to say what he wants to say, and he runs the business. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think just to add to that, right? So I think a lot of the discussion in these forums happen on the standards and the technologies and the OFDM and the physical layer throughputs and so on, right? But there are a lot of challenges that comes to the when it comes to the practical aspects of deployment. Okay, first thing is, I mean, I have seen that there is one home that we got a call saying that, I put this router, I am just not able to connect to it. Your network is poor. So I mean, they start blaming the network for it, right? But when we went to visit the customer, actually what they did is they have very nice new home, and they actually designed a nice shelf and put that Wi-Fi router in the shelf, right? So that it doesn't change the aesthetics of the whatever the interior design. And then they nicely locked it, and then they connected. Now they're started complaining that I don't get coverage. It's your network problem, right? So that is one. And second thing is people also don't understand a lot about this propagation and so on, right? Of course, these are we can't also expect them, right? So they put it in the living room and they say that, oh, you know what, I have to take a call in my bedroom because I have an office call. Go and close the door, and then now you expect and then say that I don't get the coverage. Okay, so I think one of the challenges there is which is still evolving, right? How do you provide this kind of connectivity? So there are a lot of technologies like mesh, for example. Okay, now the question is, are the homes wired for it? Right? See, today, when we build a new house, we make sure that all the electricity is distributed across. But people, although, I mean, it's like a broadband service today is like a utility. People are still not at that stage where they think about this kind of connectivity so that they can get the Wi-Fi coverage. So there is a lot to be done in the way that, it is actually taken to the mainstream to understand and deploy the right technologies, right? So just one point on this, the standards and technologies. I think TEC has done a phenomenal job of standardizing, right? So we cannot deploy any equipment unless it is TEC certified. Of course, there's a trusted sources there. So there are enough certifications to make sure that we give those equipment which is completely compliant. But having said this, there is what gets deployed in home, where and how is it used, and what is the knowledge of the customer to actually maximize this. I think that is a big factor. Of course, another really, really big factor in India is that people expect Wi-Fi router to be free. Okay. Now this is, of course we do entertain that, right? But where it limits us is somebody says that, I have a fantastic Wi-Fi 6C router, but you'll have to spend some, 15, 20,000, right? And then we go and talk to the customer, he listens to it. Finally, he expects that, okay, now when are you giving it to me? Okay. So I think some of these are the challenges that, the operational challenges that we need to deal with. But there are of course, quite a lot of related to the software capabilities, right? So for example, we also heard about in the morning, somebody alluded to, can we bring in AI to make sure that all these problems are automatically, diagnosed and sent to the customer, showing that, for example, you could have a pop-up saying that, what, your router is located this place and this is where you are. For better coverage, please move to this area, right? So there is a lot to be done in terms of the not the standards and technology, but the way that the whole thing is managed, controlled, and the software capabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. I empathize with you, having been a CTO, so I can understand the operational problems. But I think some of them stem from the router will advertise my range is so much. So people say, no, my range is so much. They're not supposed to understand, but this is the walls loss and things like that. And as you said, they put the in Almara, they put the router. So all these things do matter in that respect. Coming back to the talk of the public Wi-Fi, I just wanted to ask each one of you, I think, if you whether you may not be directly involved, that how can the public Wi-Fi hotspots be increased? Is there what do you think the industry needs to do? What do you think the operator needs to do? What do you think the equipment manufacturers, and what do you think the things that can be sought from the government? I'll give you the last chance. Let me start. CS Rao, if you don't mind, let me start with Dr. Rao. Okay. You are from there, so you.
The public Wi-Fi, I think the fundamental thing is the affordability and the monetary capex and return on investment model is the one which is the fundamental thing that is bothering everybody. So for that, one of the first things is to look at the bandwidth affordability and the Wi-Fi access points and the Wi-Fi infrastructure on what is the capex per sub that we can aim at and have. That is one of the fundamental things. When we did this experiment in South and West as a part of BSNL managed Wi-Fi, we learned a lot of things. I think the issue is that of the bandwidth affordability and the infrastructure cost. No doubt, unfortunately, the comparisons come. There is a Wi-Fi access point who sell that as, you were saying, if you need a real good quality Wi-Fi service to be done, which has to be having availability, reliability and maintainability standards, one should be willing to spend a good 10,000 to 15,000 on an access point, as he mentioned, Sarath has mentioned. But unfortunate comparisons will come with an access point. The expectation is, it should not be more than 3,000 rupees. So I think that's the fundamental issue that we are bothering on the public Wi-Fi. The business models of the adoption models or the return on investment models, I don't think the advertisement-based models will stimulate the growth of public Wi-Fi adoption. It has not been the case in the rest of the world. It has been tried with Google doing a lot in railway stations, but it's a failed experiment. We all know that. Now, what is the way in which it has to happen? I think the PM1 was articulated and envisioned well, but I don't know. You asked a question to Jayant, and maybe he will answer later. I think fundamental things is that how do we sell the coupons, and how do we ensure the coupons to have longevity? How do you ensure the coupons to have a revenue sharing arrangement or roaming service, as he is calling? I think they are the ones which will only stimulate the growth and scalability of public Wi-Fi, in my view.
So while she's telling me that I'm maybe overshooting the time, so anybody else wants to add to this? Would you like to say, Sarath, of this?
Yeah. So we have actually deployed about 5,000 access points, right? Of course, we are there in the only some 25 major cities and towns, right? We are not there in the rural areas. And most of these are actually, so we deployed under the CSR. Okay, so this is to provide coverage for the, underserved, right? I mean, the kind of, for example, they're used for the education purposes and so on, right? So a few interesting points that come out in this one, right? I think the first one is the right of way, right? I mean, to provide this hotspots, you actually need fiber connectivity, right? Now, fiber connectivity requires right of way. Now, right of way is a very, very challenging, especially in India with, the local authorities, number of, these departments that you need to, to provide one area, to connect one area to another area. I think this is something that a lot can be done to make it very, very, very simple. And second one is we need the infrastructure. Where are you going to deploy these access points, right? And the third thing is how are you going to power them? Okay. I mean, so these are like, I mean, I know I'm getting into the nitty gritty details. I can see Anil smiling, and I'm sure he would have had a lot of this experience. So I think, to make it if we can actually find a way to really simplify this, right? And I think there's a good potential. So today what we do is where it actually works very successfully is when the local governments partner with us, because it's also in the interest of the government to, to provide this connectivity to the underserved segments of the population, right? So where there is interest from them, they come and approach us. That makes it a very smooth process because they themselves can actually bring in all these, whether it's for getting the right of way or getting access to the poles, or even making sure that the power connectivity is provided very easily without having to, put in too much effort, right? So I think another thing it works is that, we do provide a combination of both, right? So there's a certain usage, right? So an hour of free internet, right? So then we can actually probably combine, because we already have broadband in that area, we can also ride on the infrastructure. So that actually helps in, from the capex perspective, how we can justify this, right? Because so we're able to intelligently combine, where we can provide that free coverage versus, how we can monetize this, right? So I think, so that would be, so this is one model that you can probably scale using.
Okay, thank you. A short answer from you, Jayant.
Sir, here the question is that government is thinking of the very wasteful 50 million Wi-Fi hotspot in the country by 2030. Definitely to achieve that, there is a good number of participation from the state government, all the public places, some type of viability gap funding to be given. Then only it's a combination of the telco provider, service provider, internet service provider and the government participation. Then only we can able to achieve this type of this 50 million target. So there is a participation is required. Of course, what Sarath is telling, that there is a lot of difficulties that PM1 service provider are also facing in the installation of the infrastructure. Infrastructure is required. Where to install them? Even in the light pole, there is a electricity board has started charging a huge amount per month for the installation of the access point. So these all are the things need to be eased out by the government. Then only we can able to achieve this type of 50 million Wi-Fi hotspot. Yes, it is required, but support is also required. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I don't know when Sapna would be after me. I can throw open the thing for one or two questions to anybody has. I'll take only two questions. Mr. Vaklu first.
Thank you. Actually, Sarath, as you rightly pointed out, there is a big challenge in the urban areas when it comes to right of way. A few years back, almost more than a decade, we as an organization had suggested to Maharashtra State Transport Road Corporation that they should own part of the network. So in towns, if it's the municipal corporation who owns the network, and on the highways, it's the main road authorities, and they lease out either the cables or the fibers or whatever to the service providers, then this challenge of right of way will go. And similarly for the street furniture, as you mentioned, the challenges that the charges are so high and all that. So that also can be streamlined on the same lines to make this proliferate in a big way.
I think what you said is followed in the Bhubaneswar Smart City, which we have implemented. If the 1800 hotspots, I think the smart city, the municipal authorities are owning that, and they're running all right.
That's the only way forward.
Yeah, we also hope, I mean, there's nobody from that way from the government here, but we only also hope that with the new act that is there, once the rules are framed, we hope that these things will be taken care of. Yeah, Mr. Singh.
No, mine is a very direct question. That is, I feel that the present, just contradict me. That is, I feel that the present model that is adopted for PM Ani is not a good one. I mean, this model inherently has problems. So that's why it's not working. Right or not?
I don't want to give statements.
Well, here I am not able to comment that this is right on, because this is then been, of course, it was formulated by the TRAI, It has been approved by the cabinet. During this 2021, when this we have formalized, we have put for the cabinet. That time also we have suggested some changes. Yes, there is some cumbersome things are there. Some things are there that need to be changed, but somehow it has been approved in totality how the TRI has recommended. So in the TRI recommendation, it's the distributed architecture. There's a multi-party role.
So which means the public Wi-Fi network can work with the challenges which we said that about the local government. But I'm sure even with the local government support, the current model which is there for PM Money may not work.
In the
Because there
PM
are multiple
Money,
agencies coming in that.
I think in the next session there is a lot many
Yeah, that's
PDO
what-
operators are also there.
we
They will
leave
come
it
up
to
with
that.
their comment.
I made a very distinct statement so that I'll be challenged. So that we
So, yeah, okay. I mean, certainly what you're saying is that it's not been a success. So therefore, we want to. There's a need to at least relook to it and see what are the reasons behind it, and if there's some tweaking required, then the tweaking needs to be done to make it a success. I'm sorry, I won't be able to take any more questions at this thing. Thank you very much for a very. To all my panelists who have contributed and to the audience who have contributed, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. May I request Mr. Anil Tandon, sir, to kindly do the honors of presenting a token of gratitude and appreciation, a memento to all our eminent panelists. We present one to our keynote speaker and also a panelist, Dr. Sarath Kumar. Thank you, sir. We present to Dr. Puneet Rathore. To Dr. C.S. Rao. And to Shri Jayant Mondal. And I would request all our eminent panelists to kindly come forward, come together for a group photograph as a remembrance and memory of this wonderful session we had. And ladies and gentlemen, kindly remain seated as we are straight away moving into the next session.